Hey everyone. It is July 24th, according to the computer screen. This is an open door. This is the hour. This is one of 2 hours we get to hang out together today, but this hour is entitled Finding Truth Everywhere, where we are looking at a specific podcast of a teacher from any number of traditions, a teacher who has some information relative to truth, and we watch it, and then we come into this space together, and we share how the time spent with that podcast affects us and how the teaching affects us. And I was affected. I had a number of really interesting experiences. This week, we looked at a conversation between Andre and Gary Zukoff, and I have just a few notes. But first, I have a song. And the song, I sat just a couple hours ago and I connected to, sorry, I'm going to say this right away. Gary kept pointing to the fact that we have all these guides and teachers and non-physical entities. And I recognize for my purpose right now, what I have here is a conditioned mind, like the part of the intellect that insists I am the Cindy story, and everything that this part of my mind says I am is there. And then I have access, more and more access to something that is beyond the body mind, the multisensory. And in this moment right now, I don't care if it doesn't even make sense for me to spend much time thinking of it as an entity that's not me, since even Gary's teaching kept saying there's only one of us. So it's interesting, these different voices. But in any case, I sit and the thinking mind was on, and I said, okay, if I knew, like I'm opening to the ideal song to open our space, and then from something outside the thinking mind, the title of the song drops. That's what happened this time. Like the title, the title of the song dropped. I expect that everybody will know this song, and it fits for me, and it fits for where I am, and it fits for a big part of the conversation and the message. So, shall we listen to it? You have to wonder where all the lyrics to all these songs come from in general. The idea that they come, I'm not going to do it that way, that they come from some sort of intellectual mind is kind of, doesn't even make any sense if you look at it. I wish Livy's video is on, because she likes to dance to these songs. And I like to see her smile when there she is. See, I ask for something and it's just beautiful. So let's see. I expect Barbie to dance too, but you never know.
Yeah. Love is my religion. Love is my religion. I'll take you to the temple tonight. All my days I've been searching to find out what this life is worth. Through the books and Bibles of time, Don't let nobody stop us. Free spirits have to soar. With you I share the gift that we now know. Love is my religion. 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 I say you can take it or leave it. You don't have to believe it. Well, I'm done searching now. I found out what this life is worth. Yeah. Not in the books did I find, but by searching my mind. I don't condemn, I don't convert. This is the calling, have you heard? Bring all the lovers to the fold. No one is gonna lose their soul. Yeah. Love is my religion. 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 So you can take it or leave it. Now do you believe? So don't let nobody stop us. Free spirits have to soar. With you I share the gift that we now know. Oh, love is my religion. Love is my religion. All we need is love. All we need is love. All we need is love. All we need is love.
And see, I knew Libby would be smiling, or at least I anticipated that. All right, so I have just a few minutes of stuff that I want to share and then open it up and be interesting to see where we go. I allowed this interview to create some disturbance inside. Allowed, I don't even know what that means. I can let you know that I watched and sat with and listened carefully a couple of times to this interview, and there resulted in disturbance, in seeming to be conflicting messages. And it was so interesting because I loved Gary and I loved his passion. And what it knocked on for me was this whole question that I maybe we still aren't done with it yet, but this question of responsibility and free choice and free, what, like, all, it was knocking on different aspects. You know, I looked at his life path and there was nothing about like the steps he was talking about that came from any of the choices he made. You know, if I when I was stepping back and looking what occurred to him and what is occurring to me in general, I can't own any of the things that really happened, and 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 I can't see where he could own it. And in that context, every time he said you are responsible for making the decision too, there was something in here that just felt a little disturbed. So I'm just putting it out there because the disturbance is still there. I don't have answers. So then I sat and asked for the messages that were most key that I wanted to communicate that lit up for me as I was with Gary and his sharing. And out right away, like even with all these things I'm saying, every time I catch Cindy in error, it's a celebration. And up until this podcast, there was something in me that was convinced that Andre's studio was virtual. Like I remember having conversations with people. They never touch each other. They're and today they absolutely talked about getting on a plane and coming and visiting and being right next to each other. And so I was like, damn, Cindy was wrong. So I just wanted to put it out there. On knocking on the door. Okay, so that was number one. Um, and then to me, the message, and I wrote it down, I believe this is a quote. You are all that is. There is no other. There is one, and all is that. Right? I'm going to read it again. You are all that is. There is no other. There is one, and all is that. So that was kind of at the end. And so there was just this kind of, from A Course in Miracles vernacular, there was just the level confusion flowing in Cindy as he had that as the general message, and then kept talking about how I needed to make a choice for love instead of the wounded part of me. And the two kind of messages didn't mesh real well inside of me. So you are all that is. There is no other. There is one, and all is that. He was very clear and focused when he stated, we're in massive change and it's going to take 3 generations. And that just lit me up because that's exactly the message of the guides. So it felt like I'm being reminded, knock, 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 knock. Um, the human collective is in massive change. It's happening, like I liked, he said, it's happening in a blink of the eye relative to human history. Both the guides have stated, and now Gary Zukoff has stated it's a 3 generational process. A generation is only 20, 25 years, right? So we're talking about our lifetime kind of process, right? When you think about what a generation is, it's really, kid is born, gets to the point, has a baby, gets to the point where they can have a baby. That's 3 generations. That's one lifetime. We are in a one lifetime massive change. He called it going from um, 5 sensory human to multi-sensory human. Um, and, his definition means everyone in this room's been there for as long as I've known you. So there's nothing new in that. Um, there's nothing new in the recognition that the intellect is limited for us anyway. Um, and then it was just, um, where do we receive this multi-dimensional sensory help from? And this is the other part that just gets lit up for Cindy is there's a very steady, I want to call it steady, knowing that connecting to the wisdom, the love, the compassion that's outside of the body, like the 5 senses and the thinking mind, isn't special. It's not for the few. And he said everybody has guides, right? My sense is the sense of me as a 5 sensory human being in form is weakening and dissolving, as is all of us here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And we were talking about the guides. We were talking about this. It's like the grains of sand are separating. And I've heard the guides talk about it being you stretch a fabric and you could see right through it. Um, Helen keeps saying we're one mind with 8 million or billion faces. It's pointing to that same thing. And what's very, very useful for Cindy anyway, for this face of the one mind, is to continually remember that I'm that, and it's not special. It's not for the special few. There aren't, higher beings in human form that have something that we don't have. Um, and so I love the pointings. I see the truth in the pointings. And for me, what's useful, because the other thing he said, and then I'm opening it up, and I always get very comforted when a teacher begins by saying, don't just believe anything I say. If it calls to you, experiment with it and trust only your direct experience. And so that enables me. Christian Sundberg was in that space, like when Christian said, I'm putting words to something that you can't put words to, so please don't take it, the map is not the territory. That's a quote I think I learned from Regina or whatever. So when a teacher starts with that, starts with recognizing that what I'm giving you is a hypothesis and a way of being as we navigate this, but don't believe me. Belief gets in the way of the work we're doing now. Being willing to take in what these teachers have to say, and then if it lights us up, the willingness to experiment with it and trust our direct experience is so valuable. So I'm gonna slow things down from Cindy speaking now and look forward to what you all have to say. Please, Amy.
I'll get us started. I'm sure that there's a lot that people might want to talk about. Um, but I thought it was a really great interview. I listened to some of it again this morning. I will say I loved the way he described himself as a sex addict. And that was really an interesting description. I will just briefly, I love that he said love is the most powerful force. And the way that he described it was really made me realize I sort of heard that in a new way. It's extraordinary power of love. I also love that he talked about the great transition that's happening. And so many people are saying that. And I do, I both, this is very similar to who is the decider. It's the question, who's the decider, and is this transition happening? At this level, right? At this level, it seems to be a choice between fear or love, because we are here experiencing duality. But above this level, which is a more real and more truthful experience, closer to the truth, there isn't any choice. We're just in flow. And once you make the choice to for love, then you realize there really never was a choice at all. And it's a paradox, and it's hard for the mind to really wrap itself around that, because the mind, the egoic mind, was constructed by the non-dual knower in order to deceive itself, and it does a very good job of it. So I had an experience yesterday of talking with someone with whom I have very, very different political views. And I came out of the discussion, and as I was driving home, I realized that I was in this, it felt very thick and syrupy, this energy. And it was very, it was really uncomfortable for me. And so I did some self-inquiry about it on the way home. I was driving in the car, so I had to be careful. I was very discombobulated. And I realized that there was a part of me that wanted to put the energy, the responsibility for that on her. But the fear, the feeling was in me, the sensation was in me, and it just took a brief moment of self-inquiry to just go, yeah, that's in you. So what is it in you that is feeling like you're walking through molasses? What is that feeling in you? And I realized it's fear. It was fear. Fear that because I feel that my view of reality was threatened by hers. And her view was that certain things were true. And in my view, if you believed those things, then you believed that lies were truth and that liars were being truthful and that there were great conspiracies. And that upset my apple cart because things that I perceived to be really not true and not loving could be perceived by someone else as being the opposite. And that just threw me for a loop. I had to, the egoic mind was looking for blame somewhere, and I projected a lot of it onto her. But it was because I was afraid to look more deeply at where my source of fear was. And the truth goes right back to the first lessons of A Course in Miracles. I do not know what these thoughts are. I do not know what anything is for. And then Zukoff's thing about love just hit me right between the eyes. Only the most powerful force is love. And I have to look beyond all of that judgment and all of that fear and hone in on the love I know she is. And so that's where I've left it. But there's detritus, of this energy. It's very powerful energy and if I wasn't willing to do the inquiry, it would just go right past me. And I would land in judgment and just stay there. And even knowing the self-inquiry, I still feel it's like the remnants of the perfume of this crappy, shitty little molassesy kind of syrupy, sluggish energy. And so,
So can I ask you a question,
yeah,
or at least make a comment?
yeah.
When I talk about this disturbance that I'm sitting in,
Mhm.
um, part of what is being looked at is is opening up to the recognition that I, whatever this sense of a me is unaware of where the decision to do the inquiry is coming from.
Well, what are your two choices?
I don't literally, I don't even know if there's just two. Like that, it's not it's where I am with it. This is me. I'm not asking you to look. I'm just letting you know that when I got hit with this sense of unease and disturbance, which I'm recognizing is a really good thing, we have to undo who we think we are before something new arises. I don't know if I ever turned around in this way and looked, where did the decision, where is it located? Where did the decision to sit and do the inquiry come from?
Did it
Another
just
way, it's,
arise? Did it just
well,
arise?
that's the comfortable answer, but that's not where I am in the inquiry.
Okay.
That's the comfortable answer. I don't, the comfortable answer is from a standpoint of a separate self, I don't know. But it just happened. But from a space of where Cindy is currently feeling uncomfortable, there's a sense that there's use in sitting back and saying, now, the other way the question has been coming up is where is the projector? Which is an interesting state since I've been sitting in this, the world I see is just a projection. It becomes an interesting thing to recognize it's not the Cindy separate that is the projector. So where is the projector? That's the other thing that's just creating, but when I say a disturbance, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's not, it's good. It's like it's shaking a structure that needs to be shaken. But
Well, we can just continue this discussion at 4 o'clock when we go through the decision for God, because this brings this right up, Cindy. So I'll look forward to continuing this with you. Yeah,
yeah, so Sandra's here. Isn't that exciting? I'm so happy
yeah,
that
and
Sandra's
I
here.
would encourage you to bring more to that discussion.
The biggest one for me, though, is just that I'm losing my fear of being uncomfortable. Like I'm recognizing that if a question like this shakes the insides up, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. It means I'm looking at assumptions that have been creating this continual sense of something. And so an inquiry that feels uncomfortable like this is a good thing. I'm okay. I'm going to get really comfortable being uncomfortable. Now I'm handing things over to Sandra.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever. Yeah, it's afternoon, isn't it? Hello, everyone. I'm so glad I could be with you. And I had this realization that it doesn't matter how many people are in my house. I get to be wherever I want to be. And it might be that I need to be here more when there's all these people in my house. So that I can remember the truth and not get caught up in anything. So I enjoyed listening to Gary. I read his book, The Seat of the Soul, maybe 10 years ago, pulled it down and looked at it again after this interview. And I really didn't focus on the whole thing about choice and decisions. Even he said it over and over again, responsibility. It kind of just, there's this question that Amy asked me when I first met her. On whose behalf, or something like this, I don't know on whose behalf, who is asking that question, or on whose behalf is that an issue? And every time I realize it doesn't matter when I'm identified with the truth of being, it's not even a question anymore. I don't have to figure it out. So, but that's not what I focused on. What I focused on was this one statement that I love so much. I backed it up and rewound and took the time to write it down. And it was this statement: how you experience something is dependent upon the lens through which you see it. And that felt so true. And so it is exactly what Amy was giving us in her beautiful example. How you experience something is dependent upon the lens through which you see it. And, when you go to the eye doctor and they keep flipping the switch and you keep seeing things and they want to know when you see this and when you see that, it's kind of like that's happening through this whole process with me. It's the lens through which I see things is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's also getting more clear. It's getting so much more clear. And the lens through which I see it is not just with the eyeballs. It's with this. He talked about the infrared and the widening of the view and the widening of the senses. It's like the lens is becoming so much broader. And clear and comfortable, more comfortable. And he says, you can know, I mean, it's just what I've been experiencing over and over again, that I can have an experience that is what I would have called a different, I would have called sadness, or I would, but now I have joy mixed in with it. And so the experience itself is not all that there is. So then he talked about reverence becomes more present. It's like that song that you play all the time, everything is holy now. I forget, it's like everything, even the experience of, I love that word, discombobulation that you used. That can be holy also. Like he said, everything is exquisite. Everything, what were those words? Flawless, perfect for us, for our learning, if we want to use the word learning. And in that lens of full acceptance and beauty of everything, is experienced differently. And he used Viktor Frankl, which we've, in a concentration camp, and how the horrible, catastrophic, what we would call catastrophic situation that he was in, they couldn't take away his love. They couldn't take away his mind. What lens was he using? So, what I also liked was that he went on to say how we can do this. And it fully resonated with my own process. And it wouldn't be anybody, like what you said in the beginning, Cindy, that experience it for yourself, investigate for yourself. And I have done that multiple times. And what he said was so close to describing what I experienced, so that's why I loved it. He said, go to the energy of a loving part of your personality. Now, for me, I wouldn't call it bringing it to the personality. I would go to the energy of the truth of who I am, which is so much more than the personality. It doesn't get rid of the personality. The personality is still here. You guys are still hearing from this personality, but it's bigger than that. It incorporates the personality. But so go to that loving part of the being that I am when I'm experiencing fear. Not try to get rid of the fear. When I'm feeling discomfort, when I'm feeling that stuff. I call it the icky feeling because I can't even put a name on it sometimes. When I'm feeling the icky feeling, that's when I remember, let's remember the truth of who I am. It's like bring the love into everything. Bring the love that I am into it. I like that he gave us this how-to part. And he said, experience it intimately and fully without succumbing to it. Like, it's back to that lens, put on the sunglasses or put on the other set of glasses. I don't know. And it changes. It changes that. Then you have the clarity of what's happening, that the personality is experiencing this, and I'm not to be afraid of it. I don't have to figure it out. Oh, here it is, feel it. Ask the question, is it true? Like you said earlier, Cindy, or ask the question, what the F is happening here? Whatever question you want to ask through your own personality. It doesn't have to sound spiritual. And it doesn't have to be a blueprint, because it will arise somewhat spontaneously. And that is so much simpler for me. It's almost like I just rest in that, I marinate in that being that I am. And I'm grateful for it. I am grateful for one small aside that he did too, about his father, because I've always felt this, not always. I grew up thinking my father caused a lot of my problems. And I don't think I really felt love for my father. Even when he died, I was like kind of neutral about it. Like, oh, he's not here anymore. It made it a lot nicer to visit my mother without my father in the picture. So I loved what he said about, he realized that he really did love his father. And in that moment that he said that, I felt love for my father. Because I did what he said. I went to the energy of the part of me, the part of my personality that is love. And it felt so good to love my father and to recognize that he loved me. It just gave me chilly bumps. And I was really grateful for that, because the guides tell us, or what I've been hearing, what I've been hearing from them is that everything can be reclaimed, even the past. So it doesn't matter that he's been gone 15 years. I haven't seen him in 15 years. Everything can be reclaimed. And I can love my father now fully for the truth of the being that he was, not for the actions that he took from fear that were so well described in this interview. That I can, the truth of who he was and what he was experiencing must have been a lot even worse for him than it was for me and my sister, so that was really nice that I got to feel that. And I appreciate your discussion about decisions, but I'm almost feeling like it doesn't matter to me so much anymore. I appreciate it intellectually, but it doesn't matter, because the source of everything is the ultimate cause. And if I am the source of all things, then I'm part of the cause. So I don't know, didn't mean to get into that one. It's time for me to stop. Something's telling me to stop.
This whole concept of reclaiming the past is, for me, a big part of the chapter, the section we're reading with Amy at 4 o'clock.
Oh, I hope I can be there.
My favorite 5 lines in the course, I think, are at the end of that chapter. And a big part of it is, I don't feel guilty for what I've done, because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decisions if I will let him. That may be my all-time favorite line in A Course in Miracles.
And that's part of the clarity that comes in. That's what I mean by clarity. You start seeing things for what they really are. And I want to thank all of you for listening, but more importantly, for being my friends. You're my best friends.
I love us, I do. Hey, Julie, thank you for being our best friends.
Hello. So happy to be here. Well, Sandra, when you talked about the love for your father, that just gave me goosebumps too, and just made me think. I did resonate with that when I was listening to him regarding my father or grandparents' troubled relationships. So thank you for that. That was very, very, very moving in that. I enjoyed Gary. I listened to it, shoot, probably Sunday on every day, a little bit at a time. I didn't realize, I was talking to Libby, and she had said that I asked her about the Seed of the Soul, and she said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I read that." And so I downloaded it, I Kindle, and I started reading it, and it was very interesting reading it with this video that we watched, this interview and that, and I just was blown away from it because I guess what I'm learning being in these rooms is it all comes back to love, and that just blows me away. That it really just all comes back to love, and I had this experience, a little opposite of what Amy had. It was just after I read a little something. I always listen to this one person trying to get the what's going on for daily with in the United States, and afterwards, I envisioned that this person that I have a lot of negative feelings towards, and I feel like the person's doing a lot of harm. I realized that this person is just like a little kid and he really just needs to be hugged. And so I envisioned me giving him a big hug, and then I enveloped him, and then he just started crying. And I felt this, just like this power that's all this man needed was love. He just needed a hug because that's all why he's acting out. And this is what I'm learning. And that made me feel so good that I could do that. And for Ron and Libby that know me with this person, that's huge. And so I'm just grateful for this gift that I keep on getting by coming to these meetings, that if I become aware of why I'm thinking, when I have those negative feelings, and then what he was talking about is to change them into love, for that positive energy, it can help. And really to take a soul look at me. I love when he said, and I wrote it down, he said the opposite of love is fear, not hate. And I thought, he's right. Because he said, think about that. John Lennon would have wrote, because I love John Lennon, he would have wrote, all we need is fear, and so all we need is love. And that is so true. And that really struck with me. And, when we choose fear, the consequences are different than when we choose love. And, to look at when I choose fear, it is always going to be unhealthy, destructive. And when I choose love, it's going to be healthy and constructive. And so that was really good to hear. Let's see. And I love what you said. I'm glad you said that quote, because I'm still struggling with accepting that we're all one. I'm still learning that. So when you said the quote, Cindy, I really love that. You are all there is. There is no other. There is one, and all is that. And so I thank you for that, because I'm still working on that. And that's okay. And also I like when he talked about your spiritual experience, your growth is your spiritual experience, and you're right where you need to be. And I need that too, because sometimes I'm like, well, you guys are so much further ahead. And I'm like, okay, no, Julie, back up. You're where you need to be, and your growth is today. And just keep doing what you're doing and ask questions, which I'm not as good at. And I need to be better about asking questions when I don't understand something. And so I'm grateful that I'm feeling more comfortable with all of you. And this whole love thing is just blowing me out of the water. So yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you.
And I'm inspired to say to anyone who wasn't there yesterday or hadn't heard it, while I was with the group listening to Helen yesterday, saying yes to everything there was this sinking into this, oh, Sandra. So Sandra, if you haven't listened to that satsang yet, have you listened to it? Saying, oh, please do. The last week's Helen satsang, the yes, and you let me know if you don't agree that a lot of your message and a lot of what you're sharing with us came through how Helen was, both in the teaching in the first half hour. Oh, Ron, I love you so much. And as well as how she worked with the people afterwards. Because that message in that satsang was just to say yes. If you're feeling really angry right now, say yes. If you're really mad at yourself or feeling really angry, say yes to being in this place of feeling really angry about not being, say yes to that. And her loving consistency with that, I really, 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 like, I saw your face while I was sitting and having that experience. So, and anyone else who hadn't been with it yet, I can't recommend that one high enough. So, Mel, I love that you're here.
I love to be here. Thank you. I love all my best friends too. Thank you, Sandy, for reminding us. And yeah, and thank you, Rana, for putting that link. I was just going to ask where we could get connected to that link. So thank you so much. Yeah, I kind of was like with you, Cindy, about when he talked about responsibility and choices, that kind of raised it for me a little bit, that everything just seems to happen and there's no one there that's actually choosing anything. So I kind of picked up a little bit on that as well. But there was one statement he made that I kind of highlighted because I call it my Endegoism. He kind of, it's one of her truths that when he talked about every experience is perfect for you and to use it and learn from it, that every experience is happening for us, as Mandego says. So I think he made that point. So that was a real important one for me to remember. For example, a little while ago, I was driving and I got a rock on my windshield and it caused this huge crack and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I had to go and get do all the steps of getting somebody to come they had to replace the whole windshield. So you think, oh, this is a pain, right? Well, when they opened the hood of my car to help replace it, inside the hood, we found all these mouse nests that had started, or like 5 of them. So mice had gotten in and they were making all these nests. So then I learned about how, but the great thing was they didn't really end up, I took them to a garage and after we got rid of all the mouse nests, but they didn't it hadn't done any really damage to the car. And I also learned how to handle that situation too. You can spray it with peppermint oil. Anyway, that's just on the side there. But I realized all along here, wow, thank goodness that I had the crack in the windshield, because if I hadn't had the crack in the windshield, I would have had the hood open to learn about the mouse nest. And that could have done a lot more damage. So, if you initially, you recognize, wow, this experience, might seem kind of, terrible, but maybe it's leading me now to the next thing that I really need to know. And then when I took the car to the garage, it was so cool because the guy that, he was very, he came over, he looked at the car and we checked everything. He said, oh, it looks okay. And he told me the story about how some woman had come in because all her engine lights were on and everything. And she drove in and they lifted the hood of her car and there was a groundhog in her car engine. So I got that great story. So it all worked out just great. So as I rattling on, the one other thing with Gary though that I questioned, he did talk about this new consciousness, and I always go back to there's only one consciousness. I mean, I can't see how there can be an old consciousness and a new consciousness.
Yeah,
Whichever is happening, it's just one being everything, one being everything. So, I don't think, so that I just picked up on that too. So anyway, so thank you all for listening to my story, and it's great to be here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Rana, if you're there and you want to say anything right now, I just want to give you space before there you
Okay,
are.
hang on. Okay. This is the situation, Mel, that I've been working with all week. I got in my car the other day, and once again, all the lights went on. I just went through this in April or whatever. It was like $900. The squirrels had chewed through the wiring under my car and broke the power steering. So the other day I got in the car and it's the same lights are flashing. That's what the memory has been telling me. So this is the new part, is I'm going to look back and see if it was exactly the same light, but neither here nor there. The car, quote, is broken, right? The air conditioning in one of the parts of our houses is broken. And that's what I've been working with. And two things have come to me. One was the incredible, helpful Helen video, sitting with, okay, so this is happening.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And do I need to get sucked into the drama and the poor me story? No, I really don't. And the other thing was, if you haven't watched Cindy interview Jeff Bailey at Awakening Together last Sunday, there was a satsang with Jeff, and I watched it yesterday. And he reminded me, and you all know this phrase, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? So now, every time I thought about either of these two things, which I am not a mechanic or a tech, I am not involved in the actual fixing of any of this. So whenever it arises, I just keep saying, show me what this is for. And there's nothing come yet, but I don't expect it to like be on a command, right? It's not a Christmas present, but maybe it will be because there is no time. But it is exactly what I've been dealing with, Mel.
Oh.
And so what I see, again, Julie's question, and me too, Jules, it's hard to get this, like there's one thing going on, right? But this points to that. There's really one thing going on. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Other people have stuff going on. And so laugh about it. That's why I wrote OMG in the chat. I was laughing so hard that God loves me so much that Mel found mouse poop in her car. I mean, you can't go anywhere else for this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mel. I love you dearly.
Oh, you.
And I'm just sitting here, I could tell right away that where rubber meets the road next Monday is going to have a focus on this word victim. Chuck and I were talking
You
about
heard
it
him
too.
say that, didn't you? This is where the rubber meets the road in the conversation. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. And even Patricia, you know, the sidewalk decided to open up and come invite her, give her this whole new experience, right? It's sort of like the pebble hitting a windshield and discovering the mouse poop. What is the sidewalk deciding to come up and swallow you and create this experience? What is that going to show you?
My God, what a gift, huh? What a gift. I loved what he said about fear and love, because it's something we've been talking about for a long time, and in A Course of Miracles. And boy, ain't that the truth. When I'm afraid, it's time to turn to love, time to turn to the Holy Spirit. Well, this whole experience of a broken shoulder has, God, my God, has it taught me a lot about, on the self-inquiry that I've needed to do. And it's about vulnerability, which means being dependent, and loss of ability, and being a burden. I don't want to be a burden on anybody. And so when I say those things, I realize that I'm not giving other people a chance to be helpful to me. But Barb has lots of things to do. She has a lot on her plate. She's mentoring people in Iraq and Kosovo, I think. And so I'm a burden to her because these things need to be done. But what I'm also realizing is that I can do more for myself than I think. And that's a gift. I mean, I didn't break my hip. I'm grateful. It's just a shoulder. God forbid it was a hip. And realizing that in a way I am a victim of my fear of being a burden. And that's an interesting place. I don't want to be a burden. So it's like turning that around and saying, it's an opportunity for me to let go. That's really what it's about. And just allow. But it's this stuff that's coming into consciousness that has been really important, and I wanted to share that with you. I thought it was an interesting interview. I didn't think it was fabulous. I thought it was interesting, and that's okay. So, fabulous, interesting, those are just words. So, we are all one consciousness, and all of our consciousness is love. So I love you all. Thanks.
So just with these few minutes, I just wanted to let you know that next week we're going Pure Course of Miracles with Sunday for Monday interview of Afis, I think his name is. He's the gentleman I know that Izzy really liked, the gentleman that was at the Center for Awakening a couple months ago. I decided, let's take a look at him. And our beautiful Chuck Hunter has agreed to facilitate. Akeem, yes, thank you, Kendall. And then the week after that, I can never remember his name, but William is going to facilitate Saguru. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his name. So we'll be looking at Saguru, and William has agreed to facilitate that conversation on my daughter's birthday. And then we're going to go to a Sufi master, and I'm about to upload that conversation. And if anyone wants, Llewellyn, I think is his name, is the teacher, and he makes me melt a little bit. There's something very soft and open and peaceful about him in my memory, but I keep looking at his video. But if anyone is interested in facilitating a podcast with a Sufi-based teacher, let me know. And man, this was good. This is always good. We are back again in 3 hours for a Vita, a Vita in A Course in Miracles. Do you got the page number in case anybody wants to?
Yeah, we're looking at section 10 on page 227. It's just a couple pages. And if you read it through, think about self-inquiry and how the impetus for self-inquiry arises. Like what's that all about? Anyway, it's an interesting. It's very short, and hopefully we'll have a good discussion.
Oh, well, we're going to have a fabulous discussion. All right, let me turn off the recording.